The 57th legislature starts today, as a matter of fact, and joining us now to talk about the legislative priorities is Republican Senate President Warren Petersen. Senator, Mr. President, I should say, thanks a lot for doing this.
Good morning, Mike. Thanks for having me on the show.
It's going to be an interesting time. I was there Friday with it and listening to you in that conversation with legislators from both sides of the aisle, hearing the governor and what she had to say. The message seemed to be from everybody there that they are willing to work together where they can. So let's start there. Where are the areas you believe there's going to be bipartisan support for some things that Arizonans believe need to get done?
Yeah, well, hey, first of all, thanks for joining that panel with us. That was a lot of fun. So I think you'll hear they will mention all the same areas that we're going to mention. The difference, of course, is how we want to address those issues. I am optimistic always that we'll find bipartisan solutions. We'll find enough consensus in each area to have a bipartisan solution. And quite frankly, in some areas, we don't necessarily have to have a bipartisan solution because the majority can act on its own.
Do you believe that on areas like, let's say, water, do you believe both sides of the aisle will come together where there will be something agreed upon by everyone, or do you think that's still going to be something we battle?
Yeah, I think, well, what's interesting is we actually did have a bipartisan agreement last cycle on something that would have completely met all the demand for new housing. It was our Ag to Urban program, and it kind of fell apart at the last minute because there were pressure from people who gained financially by keeping water scarce. And so their pressure kind of made the deal fall apart. I think ultimately, you know, in politics, everything comes to light eventually. And I think as those motives are exposed, people will realize that what's best for Arizona, there's going to be pressure to force what's best for Arizona to happen.
So the two things I see as challenges, which I'm certainly not giving anybody anything that they don't already know, that you still have a slim majority in the House and the Senate, although you did make gains. Keeping the caucus unified is going to be a key to a lot of success in getting bills passed. But the other part of it is negotiating with a governor that has been very willing to veto a lot of different things. How do you face those challenges, and what do you think you can actually get done?
Sure. Well, the last 2 years, the two Republican caucuses have done very well. I think the key to getting along is making sure we're unified. It's a lot of meetings. You have to spend a lot of time together. We held a lot of closed caucuses. You've got to listen, and then you have to be able to focus on the areas where you agree. You got to let go of those, the areas where you don't. You build that consensus, and then you execute and move forward.
So what will be your priorities on the Senate side? What are going to be the priorities of things you want to work on that you believe need to get done?
Sure. Well, I'll hit some real quick topics here. If you want me to drill down on them, I can. I know we don't have a lot of time. But first of all, K-12 education. Republicans want more money into the classroom. So we have a plan to bolster teacher pay above the national average. We think that will help us retain and get good quality teachers. Number two, the border. We had several vetoes on the border. We put the Border Security Act on the ballot. It passed 2-1. Now we have President Trump. He's going to enforce border security. We will do what we can to help him, whether it's litigation, legislation. Housing and water, those two things go together. You brought this up already, but we have what's called the Ag to Urban plan. We did have some bipartisan support. I think we'll have it again. But this plan alone, by taking housing on agriculture, which uses 3 times the water, will actually completely solve the water demand for housing in what's called an active management area. We have that solution right now. It is ridiculous for us to have a moratorium on housing. There should be no moratorium because with this solution, we have more than enough water for the housing that is needed by Arizonans. And quite frankly, this is the first time we've ever been unaffordable, and it's because we have obstruction to these good policies. Finally, I'll just mention elections. I've been on your show before. We want to make sure we have night of. Talking about this, we want to make sure we have night of election results We also want to make sure there's transparency and people, in the past, there's something called the cast vote record that has been given out to the public as a public record. We're seeing some resistance on that right now. We need to make sure that that is offered like it always has been so people can look at the numbers. And there's no PII on these numbers, personal identified information. We need to make sure that people have this information so that they can feel good about reconciling what happens with the elections. And I guess finally, I'll just say rule of law. We've seen this unsettling thing where various officials in the executive branch are breaking the law. We've taken them to court. We've won. I mean, this kind of stuff just needs to stop. It's better for them to just follow the law rather than lose in court. But if they do break the law, we'll be holding them accountable.
All right, so I'd like to drill down on one especially, and that's K through 12 and bolstering pay for teachers. We've been hearing for years, we've been talking about it for years, money in the classroom, teacher pay. How do you believe that can happen? And then Prop 123, are we going to see continue the state land trust? How do we fix those issues, or how do we make sure you can bolster the pay for teachers?
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. So a lot of people don't know this. I saw a reporter reported this wrong this morning, and I texted them, and they got the accurate information from me. But Prop 123, even though it expires, we have already backfilled that in our 3-year budget. We did that last cycle. So the Prop 123 monies that were committed 10 years ago, those monies are going to continue. So we are maintaining these higher levels of education. Doug Ducey came in, Governor Ducey, he said he was going to dramatically increase K-12 education. He literally doubled it. We did 20% teacher pay raises. Now, fast forward to today, we're in a situation where we can take these Prop 123 funds, and these will be extra dollars. And what the Republicans want to do, and this is where the schism is, the Republicans want all that money to go to the classroom. We want it to go to the teachers. We want it to go to teacher pay. This is our plan to boost teacher pay above the national average. The Democrats would like to see the money go to administration and some to teachers, I think, but they want it to go all over the place. We want it to go to teacher pay, where we get the biggest bang for the buck for a better education for our kids.
Well, I appreciate the time. I know it's a very busy day for you. And the invitation is always open. I would love to have you on more often to kind of talk about the legislature as it moves forward and pieces of legislation specifically on these issues so we can find out where they're at.
Love to. Thanks, Mike.
All right. Thank you. That is Senator Warren Petersen, Senate President Warren Petersen, spending a few minutes with us.
Thanks for watching the Mike Broomhead Show. Tap to watch the first season of Amazing Arizonans, a KTAR News podcast. You can also click the button in the middle to subscribe.